Hello there. Nothing says December quite like curling up in bed to a nice book while it snows outside. Can you believe it is snowing outside? It is currently snowing right now in London. I've lived here 5 years. It does not do that, okay? It just slushes. It just puts slush everywhere and the trains don't run and we've actually got snow. It's quite crazy. As soon as this video's over, I'm gonna go build a friggin' snowman. But back on the book topic, I usually set myself a goal at the beginning of every year to read a certain number of books. It's kind of like a nice fun challenge and it helps me read more because I like reading and I'd like to be able to read more. Last year, I read 25 books. That was pretty good. Good job, Evan. So this year I thought 20 books will be my goal. You know what they say, aim for the clouds, fall amongst the skyscrapers. Well, I fell in like a first story building. I only read 6 books this year. Reasons, I kind of lost my Kindle. I left it on a tour bus in the US. Hopefully I get it back when I go to LA, but I haven't been able to read as much. But I still managed to read some books and I wanted to tell you about them. Also, before we go any further, just know I'm not going to put any spoilers in this video because I'm not trying to ruin anyone's reading experience. That would be evil. The first book I want to talk about is Perks of Being a Wallflower. I've talked about it before, I believe, in a Q&A, but this is genuinely one of the best books I have read. If you ever feel like an extra in a group or like you don't belong, this is the book for you. I heard that a lot of schools have this as required reading nowadays, which I absolutely love because this is just such a good coming of age book. I love the writing style, how like the character is writing letters to an anonymous person and that's kind of how it's written, and I love that style. It's so different and new and fresh, and even if you've watched the film and you think you wouldn't enjoy it by reading it, nah, man, I also watched the film before reading it, and I couldn't remember a single plot point. That's how forgettable the film was. Book, amazing. The only thing I remember about the film was Emma Watson's dreadful American accent, and if you didn't believe it was that bad, either rewatch it or get your ears checked, okay? You know how annoyed British people get when Americans go, "Hello, I'm British"? That's how bad her American accent was, okay? It's supposed to be Pittsburgh. I don't know where she was. She was all over the place. Anyway, that aside, that's the film, okay? The book, amazing. Please pick it up if you haven't yet. It's beautiful. Also, if I had to rate this book, I'd probably give it a 10 out of 10. And I'm not that liberal with ratings, okay? It just happens to be that this one, it deserves a 10 to me, okay? It's that good. It's a very good book. 10 out of 10, pick it up. The next book on my chopping block is considered a literary classic. It is Brave New World by Alduous Huxley. And if you're into the dystopian genre of books, you will love it. In this world designed by Alduous Huxley, humans have now been conditioned for everything. Eugenics is in full force. So why would you have any defects in any humans if you could just condition them to be perfect? Or if you need these defects for the lower class, you can condition them too so that those people just do all the manual labor. It's really, really, really fascinating, and it has a really good discussion, especially towards the end of the book, on these pros and cons. I actually know someone who read the book and didn't view it as a dystopian thing and thought it was a good thing, which I find fascinating because personally, I'm a big fan of free will. And in this book, you don't have free will. You are conditioned to do the things you are, and you are this way because you were born this way and you were conditioned to be this way, your genes are this way, and you cannot change it. That freaks me out. I like having free will. I like going, I'm going to the store because I want to, not because my genetics told me I want to go to the store. I don't know. Either way, beautiful ending, amazing book, 10 out of 10. I'm not trying to give all these books 10 out of 10, okay? It's just those two specifically are amazing. After finishing Brave New World, I decided to read some more Alduous Huxley, so I picked up The Doors of Perception. I'd heard a lot of good things about the book, and I know the band The Doors named themselves after the book, so I thought, this will be good. It was interesting. So essentially, the basic plot is Alduous, you know, the guy, it's a nonfiction, takes the drug mescaline, which is the drug inherent in peyote cactus, and he just describes his trip for like 100 pages. It's a pretty short read. It's very philosophical, very verbose. I didn't enjoy it that much. It just felt a bit like, come on, I get it. It's like that friend you have that does drugs and thinks it's like really cool, and he's like, oh my God, it's so cool. And you're like, it's cool, man. It's something else you can talk about, maybe video games, any other hobbies you got. I don't know. He would like go on and on about like the folds of fabric being beautiful, and I'm like, cool. That's great. I don't know. It just wasn't for me. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. I like what he was doing. I like that he was trying to be deep with it, but maybe it just wasn't for me. The next book I read was Undercover Princess by Connie Glynn. I know this person. What the freak? You could consider this a YouTuber book if you wanted to, but I wouldn't really. I mean, this is quite a good book in its own right. You don't have to consider it that at all. I find the writing style quite easy to read. The end of each chapter ends with a slight cliffhanger, so you just kind of want to keep reading. The chapters are short. It's a very fast read. You can tell that it's definitely aimed at a younger demographic, but as a 27-year-old guy, I still quite enjoyed it, and I'm really excited to find out where the plot goes with the sequels that it's set up for, what I want to find out more about extra characters that are involved. I want to know more about her best friend from home. There's a lot of good stuff in here. Also, there's a really, really sick math problem that's in here that the special thanked Evan Edinger for. Oh man, that's literally been on my bucket list for ages, so that's another reason why I liked it. But in its own right, very good book. If you haven't read Undercover Princess by Connie Glynn, pick it up. today. The next book I read was Turtles All the Way Down by John Green. Now, if you look at this book cover, the font kind of makes it look like the title's called Turtles All the Way Down John Green. Like, just imagine turtles going down on John Green very slowly in a spiral, an orange spiral. Why orange? Don't know. It is one of my favorite colors, but quite an interesting cover. Now, for those of you who've watched me for a while, you'll know I've read every John Green book, at least to my knowledge. I remember seeing someone in the airport the other week reading one that I'd never heard of before. Very strange. I think he worked with another author. Either way, I've read Will Grayson, I've read a bunch of Catherine's, I've read them all. Read all the John Green books. Quite like him as an author. I really like his writing style. When it comes to Turtles All the Way Down, I also like this one, okay? I like that the teens in these books are very well spoken, they're very well educated. I like that. A lot of people might find that a downside. I don't. I think that people reading this book can pick up the way that they speak and enjoy it. It's fine. Now, when it comes to the plot, I feel like it relates mostly to An Abundance of Catherine's in style, in that most of the book revolves around three main characters and the relationship with the main character's anxiety. And I like the way he was able to show how anxiety affects everyone, affects that main person. And he did a really good job at portraying anxiety in such a way that made me kind of angry at the main character a lot of times with her habits and how she just wouldn't stop doing them. And that comes from someone that has had anxiety, who bites his nails incessantly and doesn't stop. But he did a good job, okay? Good job, John. I'm just not watching this video, but good job. I really like the way the characters are there. The one critical thing, if I wanted to be critical about this book, that I find is that there was a conflict that was set up in the very beginning that ends at the end, and I didn't feel like it was necessary that much. I felt like the main conflict could have just been this main character's anxiety and her experience with it and everyone else's experience with it and her learning to live with it. Whereas the extra bit of conflict, I feel like that was just thrown in to be like, ooh, we gotta have an overarching big thing. It wasn't necessary. It was still a good book. Liked it. I'm gonna give it 7.5 out of 10. It was a good book. Enjoyed it. Boom, boom. I do find it funny that all of the books that I've read this year, I read on long-haul flights, and the next one is no different. Dodie, Secrets for the Mad. No, I'm not that angry of a guy, but I got very angry writing this. I'm just kidding. Dodie, Secrets for the Mad was quite a nice read. I think it was the fastest read out of all the books that I have mentioned today. That might be because there's a lot of pages that have little drawings on them and her lyrics. There's cute little drawings or actual notes from her diary as a kid, which I find quite interesting. It's interesting when she's comparing what she thought as a kid, what she thinks now. If you're someone that suffers from mental health issues, you'll know how difficult it is trying to explain them to someone that's never experienced them. It's difficult. However, I feel like Dodie missed the memo there because she's way too skilled at painting a picture of exactly how her brain works. A lot of the beginning chapters discuss how her depersonalization is, and as she's able to describe it to me as if I have it now, as if I can experience it. And it's fascinating. One of my favorite songs of hers, When, it has a really good line that really drives that home, which talks about how her previous memories, her old memories, are painted in very bright ink, whereas her new ones aren't as much, they're faded. It's harder to recall recent memories as opposed to old ones. And that's just one of the many examples that are also in this book of how her brain works. One chapter that was a bit uncomfortable reading the plane was the How to Have Sex chapter. Things I didn't know. You're supposed to lay a towel down? There's also some limbs flailing, and you have to go to the toilet a lot. Those are things I never thought about, but that's because I don't really think about sex that much. There are multiple points during this book where Dodie experiments on herself in a way, and I find it very fascinating, sort of like drugs lab style. Like, she literally told us how alcohol affects her body by going 1 drink, writing about it, 2 drinks in, 3 drinks, and obviously she failed a couple times initially. I think I was involved in the second time she failed because I ended up getting way too drunk and I was crying about something or other. But either way, that was really interesting. And also another one that I found quite fascinating was where she described heartbreak and how it feels day 1, day 20, and day 50 after a breakup. I found it pretty accurate, especially when it comes to personal experience, except for me, it takes a bit longer for me to get over someone than I guess Dodie does, even though when I was experiencing it with Dodie, I was like, geez, Dodie, come on. It's not that difficult. I mean, it definitely is, and she's done a good job at describing that in the book. Lastly, one of my favorite chapters of the book was the chapter called Dear Hetty. I don't want to spoil anything. It was such a lovely little chapter, and I loved it so much, and it was so nice and heartwarming, and if anything, I'd like to give this book a 6 out of 10. Had to do it. He had to do it. No, I give it a 10. I give it a 10 out of 10. It's really good. If you haven't read Dodie's Secrets for the Mad yet, pick it up. It's really nice. If you like Dodie, if you don't like Dodie, who are you? Who are you? What's a book's favorite color? Red. That's everything I've read this year. If you agreed with me on any of these books that you've also read, please tell me in the comments. I'd love to hear what your little reviews are. I didn't mean to give things as high reviews as I did, except I did, because that's how I felt about them. I'm not the most liberal, but I'm not the most conservative. I think I'm an accurate reviewer when it comes to how much I enjoyed the book. But anyway, thank you so much for watching my video. Hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you next Sunday. Goodbye. Also, hey, you stayed past the goodbye. If you want, you can click and watch my last video right here, or you can subscribe right there. Isn't that Isn't that fancy? It's not really that fancy. Everyone's doing it nowadays. Anyway, goodbye.